We're so happy to have you here tonight.
Thank you.
You know, you've been in the public eye for so long. And everything that you do, it's really wonderful to have you here. We really want to talk about, though, your craft, because these are your peers here, and we want to talk about the remarkable accomplishments that you have made, really, in acting and been able to sustain a career for so long.
Thank you.
So we really want to
sustain.
Be able to, yes, and really
more
than sustain, really far exceed anybody's hopes and dreams. So let's start kind of at the beginning, because a lot of people here have asked questions kind of about when you started in Texas, and they've asked when did you know that you wanted to be an actress? If a lot of people wanted to ask, I mean, was it? Do you remember, kind of?
It was after I arrived in Los Angeles. I didn't have any ambition, let's say. I just walked right past the drama department, went to the art department, and I think I decided when I felt that I had done my job well. That's when I decided, because I kept thinking they're going to realize that at first I had to learn to hit the marks. Then they kept saying, turn around, you have to face the camera. I was very shy. And I'm sure you all know the story, sort of stumbled into it. Was asked to come out here and then do you want me to be specific?
Yeah, I'd like to know. Yeah.
Because I feel like...
I know lots from it, but this is...
I've had so many biographies done on me, things that I think should be done, after you're dead. So,
well, we don't want to, that's just we're taping tonight, so it's just nice to have it on this tape.
Well, I was at the University of Texas, and a publicist, David Mirisch, saw a photograph of me. So embarrassing, because I was voted one of the 10 most beautiful at the University of Texas, first time a freshman and ever. So there was a photograph of me. He saw it and started calling the Mayfair House, my dormitory. And, first of all, they would say, Farrah, Hollywood's calling, because, everybody answered everybody's phone. And I was like, okay, hello. Yeah, right. Okay, Then I would hand the phone to my girlfriends because I thought it was a joke. And then he called my freshman year, my sophomore year, my junior year. And at the end of my junior, he actually called my parents and said, why don't you I really think that she could do something, especially commercially and, in photographs. And so I was like, oh. But the thing is that I had nothing to lose. So that's the story that I tell my son. Don't be afraid to try. I mean, I guess that's easier for me to say because it didn't mean so much to me. I had to make it. I had, ever since I was a little girl, that's what I wanted to do. So I think that in a way I was lucky that way. So I thought, okay, the worst that happens is I spend the summer there. My boyfriend was going to Europe, and so I'll show him. I'll just go to Hollywood, and so my parents drove me out as long as I stayed in a girls' living facility, which was the Hollywood Studio Club. And it was such a joke. It was sort of like college, because they didn't care when you came in or what. Just no men allowed in your room. You never had to come home. So, but I think because I didn't have a drive, I didn't think really that I could do it. I thought, well, as long as I can stumble my way through it, and point me in the right direction. And so about 2 weeks or 3 weeks after I arrived, I was put under contract. They took me in to meet Renee Valenti, who was head of the New Talent Program at Screen Gems Columbia. And I was put under contract. So that it all started that way. And I called my parents. They gave me $150 a month, which is what they gave me at school. No credit card. They took away my credit card. Didn't have a car. First time I'd ever ridden a bus. I was like, when do you pull the thing? Is it before you come to it or right when you come to it? Never got that right. It was like, I mean, it's not that, we had so much wealth that I never rode the bus. It's just that in Texas you drive. It's big, you drive. So I would get to, some auditions and be so sweaty, I'll get that. So, my hair would be kind of glued to me, and I would walk in. So I was put under contract, and they actually, I remember, asked me to do a scene from of Mice and Men, which I had never read and wasn't familiar with. So I was like, "Oh, Lenny, why did you smother the door?" I don't know. Anyway, they saw something. Probably, isn't that an interesting interpretation? So really, it's I hate to say it, but when I called my father to say they're paying me $350 a week, and he went, "What? No, whoa. What are you doing? What is it you're doing?" It was just like he couldn't believe it. And they taught me how to. They sent me to diction, instead of talking like that and making so many syllables into out and my. They were going, it's one syllable. That was the hardest thing that I had to do. But otherwise, they taught me horseback riding, which, like, I didn't know how to ride a horse. I was like, okay, this is hard. So then right away they started putting me into, I Dreamed of Jeannie, Flying Nun. And they, so you had to hit the mark, and I was so brave. I didn't know the rules, so I didn't know I was breaking them. But I said, the director, I remember, said, "Okay, we're going to rehearse this," and I said, "No, that's okay. I'll just do it when the camera is rolling." And he was like, "No, we need to know where you're going to go." "Oh, I'll just." And actually, I still feel that way when I. No. Let me clarify that. When in other words, I hold back in the rehearsal because I don't want to get stale. So sort of, I have the same thing. I think it's. I'll get that.
Oh, I don't know why
I think it's better to be fresh, to sort of. Know what you're going to do, obviously hit your marks, but I realized that what I came out here with, I still have a little of inside, but I just learned along the way. So I think any of y'all can do it, really. It's if you just just try.
So now you did Logan's Run with Michael York, and that was a larger feature. So you made the transition from TV to film pretty early on.
Actually, I started with the first thing I did was remember I went on an interview, and actually not when I was growing up in Corpus Christi, but when I was at the University of Texas, I became very sophisticated in my love of films, and I loved foreign films. So A Man and a Woman was one of my favorite films, Claude Lelouch. So when I heard I was going in for an interview with Claude Lelouch, who spoke no English, I spoke no French, I got the job. It's just like, he was like, "Oh, I love how she laughs or giggles or is nervous or something like that." So that was my first film with Annie Girardot and Jean-Paul Belmondo. And then my second film was Myra Breckinridge.
Right. Oh, of course, yeah.
So right away I'm working with...
Which was a brave choice. That was an interesting
choice. Well, that wasn't my choice. Yeah. I mean, I just, like they said, I don't read this, I don't book them, I just go in. I actually did have to do a test for that, a screen test, and that's when they said you have to turn around and face the camera. I was like, "Oh, it's okay," So, but that was to work with John Huston, Mae West, Michael Sarn, who what was his film? Joanna, wasn't that?
I'm looking over here to see if something.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. So I actually was interested because I was already working with, European directors. I thought that was interesting. And Raquel Welch, and then Mae West had in her contract that there couldn't be any other blonde in the film. I guess they forgot to tell anyone that. So the first day on the lot, they have to go put brown streaks in your hair. It went off. I came back on the lot and ran into Raquel, who said, "Your hair looks too much like mine. Go back." So it's like, wow, this is fun. But I couldn't complain because I was just really low on the totem pole. So, and then I'd be in a scene wearing black and white, and one of them didn't like it that I was wearing black and white. Oh, no. So I had to wear. All of a sudden, they scrambled and got me Julie Andrews' nightgown, which she's larger, and so they had to like what's that thing, the clamp, the gaffers that they had tape it and sew some rhinestones on it. So that was what I ended up wearing in one of the scenes. But I thought, this is a strange business, you never know. So that's how I started out.
Now, when you went to audition for Charlie's Angels,
I didn't audition.
You didn't audition?
No, I had done, sorry, quite a career I've had. Murder on Flight 502. Right. 502, I think is what it was, with an ensemble cast, Polly Bergen, Ralph Bellamy. I remember he had to say a heart infarction. I don't know what it was, but we did many, many takes on that. And so that was an Aaron Spelling production. So they already knew of me. So I just had to go in and meet with Kate and Aaron and Len. So it wasn't really an audition.
Did you think it was going to be the phenomenon when you went in there? I mean, do you ever know?
I was already just saying, okay, so I missed the first of the, my senior. I can always go back, because it was no, I really never thought. In fact, when they came in and told us the rating and it was #1 or the share that it got, I was like, so that must be normal. I only later learned it becomes harder, by the way, to get those numbers, I remember that Angels in Chains got like a 42 share or something like that. And then there was the cover of Time magazine on our lunch hour, and I was like, okay, this is nice. Wow, So I wasn't, I'm gonna just unhook my mic. So it wasn't, I wasn't aware that it was as successful as it was.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you.
Don't forget it.
See, still the same. And when they said it's the #1, this week it was #1, and it was, I had nothing to compare it to. I didn't know what the norm was, if there is a norm ever in this business, but no, I didn't know.
So that was around the same time as the poster?
Well, the poster came out just before.
Before, okay.
Theodora Van Runkle, who did the costumes, actually she won an Academy Award for Bonnie and Clyde, and she was a wonderful costumer. Her husband was Bruce McBroom, this very eccentric photographer. So at the end of Myra Breckenridge, she asked me to do some photographs in some of the outfits I didn't get to wear in the film because they were great, and actually some of Raquel's wardrobe. So I did some great shots with him that were really interesting, 1940s kind of hair back and drinking a Coca-Cola. And so then I maintained a relationship with him, and one day he called and said, I'd like to shoot some photos of you. Are you interested in doing a poster? And again, I was like, a poster? What's a poster? I wasn't really, maybe I'd seen the Rolling Stones, a poster, or maybe, I can't think of an athlete, but that's what I thought a poster was. So again, what do I have to lose, so that it just happened.
Were you surprised that it became hung up in everyone's home and in
Yes.
every magazine?
Yes.
And
Still surprised. Still
hung up,
I look
probably.
at it and just, okay, it's nice, sweet. I wish I'd held my stomach, something like that. But they wanted me to wear a bikini, and when I was 28 days old, I had a tumor in my stomach, and so I had to have surgery, and so I have a little scar. So I was kind of conscious, well, in a pose, wearing it. So I wore this bathing suit, just pulled it, Saks Fifth Avenue, because I still have it. One of my assistants stumbled upon it, and so I looked in it because people are always saying, "Who designed that?" And anyway, and that was just in my backyard, just no hair, just.
It just
Yeah.
phenomenal.
So yes, of course,
Amazing.
very surprised. Very.
Now, when you were in Charlie's Angels, you made the decision to leave. There was the highly publicized kind of decision to leave there, and that was back then women didn't It's not that long ago, but it's it's long enough. Women were
30
strong.
years.
Well, strong. Yeah, so strong women. I mean, that was pretty bold. People didn't see actresses as being that
Well,
bold.
actually, I don't think there was, because we used to have to face this, the feminist and it was a juggle, whatever it was called, show. And I saw it as like, I don't know that there was, in fact, there wasn't a show where 3 women, were leads. Maybe, what was Kate in? What was the rookies, something, so there were 2 men, and then there was the Mod Squad. But even, I think, Angie Dickinson had, a man.
Mm-hmm.
So, but from the very beginning, my contract was never finished being negotiated. So, again, not knowing the rules, I didn't sign it, and we continued, second show, third show. I kept saying, but it's not, I haven't, we're not in agreement yet. And so finally, by about the maybe 15th or 16th show, the attorney came in again and again, and I said, no, because I had I owned the copyright to the poster and had received 10% of the merchandising. So I already, as strange as it may seem, had some sort of a business sense about, okay, I see the advantage of having 10%. And they were offering us 2.5%, so each girl. And so I said, no, I have to have 10. Well, if you have 10, the other girls, I said, this is not my problem. I'm not making the same amount as Kate, who is making more. We're all individual, and I didn't know that it would be terrible to leave. And I didn't break my contract. I never had one, so. There you go. Thank you.
And then,
and also, them trying to threaten me and you'll never work again. I thought, well, I could still go back my senior year. No, but I thought, what do they mean I'll never work again? Look, the thing is, we have a difference of agreement. I never signed my contract. In fact, I ran into, somewhere along the years, an attorney who said, you're responsible now. No actor can go on the set until they've signed their contract.
Now from there, you went to work with some very interesting people. I mean, you worked with Kirk Douglas and Harvey Keitel.
That's right.
And so you said that, were you studying at that point, or did you just watch? How did you kind of move into, because from there you jumped off to go do Extremities, which we're going to get into in a moment, but I was wondering what you, when you worked with these people, who inspired you? Who did you watch, or how did you learn? Did you pick up that from other actors?
I think that from the very beginning, well, it was the only training I had, so it was from everyone, you know, whether Sally Field, a lot of, even Larry Hagman, who tried to confuse me I had a line which I was supposed to say, okay, don't the buses ever run? Okay, don't the buses ever run? Don't the buses ever run? Don't the buses? And he'd come up and he'd say, so are you waiting on a bus that leaves it in? And I'd go, don't the buses ever run? No, he kept doing that to me. I was like, oh. Later I came to appreciate that you could change the line, but I was like, don't the buses ever run? Like 10 more. Okay, take 3. So I have to say I learned the hard way along the way, but always being very observant. So of course from Jeff Bridges, who was actually wonderful to work with, I learned then that you could just sort of improvise as long as you stayed, the meaning was the same. And you got your point across, and it wasn't a play. You weren't locked totally into the dialogue. But yes, Kirk Douglas, I mean, John Huston, Mae West, it was all very interesting. And it was great working with Kate and Jacqueline, I have to say, because we formed such a strong bond, a camaraderie, which made it fun. Giggling. I mean, I've looked at some of the photographs, and in every photograph, they're the photographs where we're all doing what we're supposed to be doing, but about the 4th or 5th take, they're still like this, and I'm like that, or I'm going like that behind them. So you just sort of, if you go with just what you feel at that moment, sometimes it clicks and it works, That's actually how I came to work with Robert Duvall, because he said, let me ask you about that scene in Small Sacrifices, and he picked a specific scene. He said, did you know you were going to do that before you did it? Mm. I was going like, what scene is he talking about? What scene is he talking about? What scene is he talking about? So I realized then, because he went on to say how much he disliked being able to see the machinery, to see actors who, it's so choreographed that you see it working. So he was very appreciative of that. And also Robert Altman, who said, surprise me. Oh, yes, all right. It's the best thing you can say. But yes, Kirk Douglas, Harvey Keitel, all, when you step onto a set, it's interesting to watch everybody's own personality, quirks, specific way of working. They either love me or I drive them crazy. So,
did you have? You made the leap from. You yourself said that Charlie's Angels, while it was these strong women, you had the poster, and then it was viewed as this fun show, and then you made the leap to go. You chose to go off Broadway with Extremities, which was really, that I recall, something that really distinguished you out of what everyone had seen before. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And you were wonderful, by the way, in that.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
Yeah, it was really. And then that choice, was that a conscientious choice to kind of shake out of the box, kind of break the mold, or how did that come about?
Well, I think that. When I talk about when I decided I wanted to be an actress, or ambition, or a plan, I remember going into Aaron's office one day, and Lynn, and saying to them, this is great, what we do, and but wouldn't it be really good if, let's say, one weekend, Jacqueline's, or whatever her name was in the show, Sabrina, I never remember Sabrina, her father died, somebody passed away, so we went and we shared, kind of like what has evolved into happening today, which is interesting, where you get to see relationships and emotions, and there's still, we could talk to Charlie and ask permission on the speakerphone and do all that, but the show would actually be a little more interesting, emotional, and so I had a sense that that's what I wanted to do then. It wasn't completely satisfied with having to say some of the dialogue. And they said, we have a formula and it works, and we're sticking with that. So thank you. Nice girl. Good, good, good. Thank you very much. Okay. And I thought, oh, maybe I don't know if I should do this that long. Hard to do that character for that long. So pretty much made that decision along the way. And Extremities, I can't say that I planned that. I was in New York. Susan Sarandon was doing the play, and I happened to be in a limo with Mark Jarrow, who was married to Liza Minnelli at the time. His father, Frank Jarrow, produced Extremities. And I was sitting there, and he said, you ever thought about doing theater? And he said, I'd like you to come see the play. So I went to see it, and then they said, we'd like you to come in and meet the director, read for the director and the writer. And I thought, well, what's the worst that can happen? I go back to LA. It's always kind of in my mind. So that I think it's maybe a self-defense mechanism or something, because I always see it's not a failure. It's, and it's an experience. If it doesn't happen, it's, it's not the end of the world. So I did, and then started right away.
Had you done theater before?
I had done, Burt Reynolds had a dinner theater in Jupiter, Florida. Mm-hmm. And I did Butterflies Are Free. Okay. And so while it was so totally different, mm-hmm. at least I had a sense of, working the French book and, knowing that you had the dialogue. It wasn't like you could go in and say, maybe I should say this or not go there. And I do remember going in saying, well, I don't know if that I want to move on that line. And they were going, yeah, all these actors have been doing it, and we're doing it that way, and you have 6 weeks to learn this, okay, and you're going to go to that mark. And so I was, the show was about to close, wasn't very successful, but actually I remember sitting and watching the play, knowing how I would do it differently. Not better, I'm not saying better, but that I just saw, I just instinctively felt I can do this. And my agent, who was Sue Mengers at the time, said, if you do this and you get a bad, you will never work again. And I thought, heard that so many times, This must be a trick they play, be blackballed. Which only makes me, of course, say, oh, now I'm doing it. That's it, I'm doing it. It was a big risk. I mean, it was grueling, but really fulfilling, and probably, I would have to say, in between Charlie's Angels and somewhere along Murder in Texas, something like that, is when I decided that I wanted to be an actress, because I realized that I had some tools instinctively that I could use that didn't have to be taught, that I didn't have to go to school, because I did have I think a lack of confidence and security because I wasn't classically trained, and everybody was going, where did you go to, what drama school did you go to? So I think it was the satisfaction of satisfying myself, of really being in the moment, being present, and seeing the interaction with the other actor, and then when he said cut, hearing a stillness on the set, looking at the crew. Some people would have tears in their eyes or something, and you'd go, wow, okay, that was okay, all right, okay. So it was somewhere along that time that I decided.
Did you approach it? Now, you did the play on stage first, and then was it different approaches, or did you just take one from the other? I mean, did you have to kind of relearn the part when it moved into a film, or?
Well, I had the dialogue down, but The problem was that James Russo and I had done it on stage, and because the director hadn't done it, hadn't seen it, and the other actors hadn't, there's, I don't know if I can explain this well, but when, and probably you all know just as well as I do, but when you're on stage and you're doing theater, there, you know where the attention is. It's not always with, I may be speaking, but what I'm saying is so powerful and so directed at James Russo, who was in the fireplace, that they weren't looking at me. They were looking at his reaction. So my problem with the film was that I was so used to it working a certain way, which worked, that when there would be close-ups or when they would keep it on me when I felt it should be over there, or vice versa, you know, I wasn't as satisfied, you know, because you don't have the control. Then it goes to the editing, and then somebody else decides, and then you see it and you think, why are you on me? It's you know, the strength of the scene is to see his reaction. So. But it was great, though, being able to do both and at least seeing, you know, learning something that I had felt, learning that it was true.
Now, from that, or in between that period, you did The Burning Bed, which I think to this day is probably still the highest rated movie of the week then. It was
one of them.
Really a phenomenal performance. And I mean, the challenges of that role, did you, I mean, because it must have been really, I mean, such a difficult character. What kind of, did you have to research? Did you meet with victims of violence? How did that?
Well, yes, all of that. I had done that for Extremities also. Met with a lot of, and learned, to me, that I love to learn. And so whenever there's a role that I can research, whenever there's material that I can read, that I can learn, that I can then bring to my performance, for me is the most satisfying. But I just want to say that sometimes you shouldn't give up, because I tried for at least 2 years to get The Burning Bed. This had been presented to me, not only the book, but the script by Rose Goldenberg. And she even came to see me and said, let's try to get this. So all the networks rejected it. Number one, who wants to see a woman getting beaten? And number two, who wants to see, especially Farrah Fawcett, getting beaten and looking like, you know, trailer park. You know, they just didn't see it, didn't want to hear about it. It wasn't even, and at that time, I could have almost gotten anything, you know, greenlit at that particular time. So that was disappointing. So when I went to New York to do Extremities, Rose Goldenberg came to see me and said, I don't get it, why we could never get that done. So I finished the run in New York, went back to Los Angeles, and within about less than a month, got it greenlit and got The Burning Bed. So as a result of getting the reviews that I got, and I guess sort of stepping out of the box and forcing the industry to look at me differently, which I think that probably from the beginning of my career, I tried to do, just because I'm more comfortable, I think, doing roles where that are significant, that mean something, that that I'm able to touch people with not only the dialogue, but with emotionally, you know. So it's hard. It's hard when you're doing a role like that. It was difficult doing Extremities on Broadway because, you know, you would finish at 11:30 at night, and just to get the adrenaline out of your body, I would hear the garbage truck there. It was like, oh, I'm not asleep yet. I'm not asleep. So because it takes a long time to come down after you've got your adrenaline up so high. So in doing I'm sorry, I'm segueing for what you asked, but so when I did the film, at least you got to take it from beginning to end, but to stay and sustain that place emotionally over, a day or 2 or 3 days, the rape scene, or while you're doing that, some days I would wake up and I would go, oh, no, I'm happy and I feel good. This is going to be so much harder to get down, to get into that place I need to be. So it was much harder, much more difficult.
How do you get into that place? I mean, or just, is there something that you particularly do or can suggest?
I think when you go out and you start rehearsing, you get on the set, and it's just that I don't want it's harder today. I don't feel good. It's almost better when you're pissed off and you don't feel good and you're sad. You know it's going to be easier. And you never know. Some days it's easy to get to places, and some days your body just doesn't want to do it.
Is it hard to get out of that? I mean, I would think that the roles are so intense that I would think it must be hard you would carry that with you.
I think that not only is it hard to leave it behind, but I had a son who was, I guess, about a year old. So that was easier, but also I think there's a part of you that says, I don't want to get so out of it. Let me just stay in it. You're so exhausted that you don't have much time to do anything anyway. You need to get your sleep. You're taking a forced call. You're physically exhausted. You're going to be beaten and slapped, the next day. And at least on stage, you could do it. They go, okay, that was good. Now go back, take off the blood, to change the wardrobe to clean, because now it's got to get dirty. So that's very, very difficult. But I think it is hard sometimes to, whether you're conscious of it or not, you carry it. Home.
Now, The Burning Bed, it really changed also viewers, because it was the first film that had the 800 hotline at the end.
That's right, yeah.
And it even had influence in changing legislation
It did, yeah.
for victims. So did that inspire you to get involved? I mean, how important do you think it is for celebrities to use their celebrity to bring attention to causes that need attention?
Well, that's hard to answer, because you sometimes get into areas where really should someone use it when they can sway so many people. I mean, you have to really have conviction. There was no gray area. This was black or white. It was wrong, and it's not. Are you a liberal? Are you, public? It's. I mean, it is, unless I guess you're a man and a woman. But anyway, I feel that the women are right in this case. We're not as strong, but I didn't answer one of your questions about the research that I did. So in researching it, I found that there were still 3 states that had a law that we were actually successful in getting taken off the books, which was the rule of thumb. So every time somebody says, it's the rule of thumb to that, and I go, do you know what it means?
No, I don't. Sorry.
You know what it means? Really?
You're allowed to strike your right with anything not less or not wider than your thumb.
The width of your thumb. That's right. Okay, so that was okay. And if you married a big guy with a big thumb, I would say run, but anyway. I mean, that's just so. I read This Is a Joke. This is a joke, right? So you realize how far we've come. So sour Joan Bears, I mean, really. So that happened, and also was responsible for changing police procedure because, you know, two officers, male officers, usually would respond to a domestic violence call, and the woman, you know, just she had gotten whatever. She actually wanted it to work. The guy didn't. So she would say, okay, it's all right. And he would say it didn't happen and won't happen again. And they would leave. And then he would either beat her and sometimes kill her. Or so they changed the law that now a female has to always go, a male and a female officer. And that the abuser, now I hate to say sometimes the woman, sorry, but has to be taken away. You know, they can't just say, okay, we're sorry and it won't happen again. So those were the two things that happened. But then I did a documentary called Prisoners of Wedlock and spent a lot of time with 4 women who were in prison for life without the possibility of parole for killing their husbands. And so therefore their children were in foster homes. And they, you know, I did the research, I read the court transcripts and everything, and it was at the time when back east, do you remember, well, you might remember, you know about that they were commuting those women's sentences, and it was battered women. They were actually, the governor had looked and decided they had served enough time that they could be released. So there was an ad in the newspaper. It was Governor Pete Wilson, and there were these 4 women's photographs that I had spent a lot of time with when we did the documentary. And so I wrote him a letter. It said, write in, how do you feel? It was encouraging people, and so I wrote him a letter saying that I'd done the burning bed. I get over 100, you know, letters a week. I know a lot about this. I've spent time at shelters. I know that it's actually more of a white-collar crime than a blue-collar crime, you know, and explained all that. And about 6 or 8 weeks later, I got a form letter back. Dear, blank, filled in Farrah, thank you for blah, 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 blah. So sometimes you're able to use it, and sometimes you get a form letter back. And these women are still in prison. So any of y'all who want to write to those,
No,
maybe Arnold might feel differently.
now after this, I mean, you chose also some very strong women in future projects. I mean, interesting women, Beata Klarsfeld and you know, Margaret Burke White and, you know, the Hutton story. So how did you go, did you purposely go after strong women roles? I mean, was that something that you really wanted to do, or did you think that, or were these just projects that came to you as subsequently from that Burning Bed project?
Well, let me see. I would say out of the scripts that, you know, I received, I would choose those roles. And, you know, Margaret Bork White, I love photography. I started looking at her books. I realized, you know, how much influence she had with photography. She was the first one to go over in World War, II, and what did she change? She was able to get the images, you know, that in motion, and she went into the steel mills, and so I liked that. And also it was directed by Larry Schiller, who was a photographer and worked with Norman Mailer on the Executioner's Song, and also he got the photograph of, I want to say Tommy Lee Jones, whoever the guy was, because it was such a great performance. I remember writing him a letter. But he also was the one who got the shot of, you know, Ruby shooting Oswald, that shot. So I thought to not only work on a project about a photographer that I admire so much, and it was World War I, wasn't it? Anyway, and also I'll have Larry Schiller there, who's a photographer, so we'll do lots with the emphasis, you know, will be on photography. So that's one reason I did that. Also, we went to Russia when Russia was not letting a lot of people in. And in fact, Ron Meyer was my agent at the time. So I said, okay, we're going to Russia, you're going, because he came on some locations, usually Paris or London and everything, or Russia. So he said, okay, they wouldn't allow him in because he also represented Sylvester Stallone, who, you know, in the Rocky, he beat the Russian. So they wouldn't let him in. Yeah. And so that was interesting. I have to say that sometimes it's also what you are allowed to do. It's like they give you this great gift. You get to go to, in fact, we flew from Russia, which was all gray and brown, and if I forgot to, you had to unplug every appliance. You know, if you didn't, when you came in, they gave you this, well, in Russia, you know, I was like, okay. But they went through everything every day. I could go back to my room. It was really, and I had an interpreter who was KGB, so I was always asking questions, and she was always like, so the rooms were, you know, mic'd and everything. And I ate a lot of potatoes, bad food, rancid bad food, really. I thought, for us to have ever worried about communism, you know, what we should have done is just sent our kids over there, you know, for a couple of weeks, because let me tell you, it was like, it was sad. It was freezing. They turned the heat off. They didn't turn the hot water on until 7, and so I had to take my shower at like 5 in the morning. It's just like, it was cold. I slept like in a silk cap and gloves and a stock. I mean, the whole thing. I really, like a down jacket. It was freezing. And they were, the food, no green vegetables. It was really interesting. In fact, I got on the airplane, and the food was the best food I'd ever tasted. Okay? So, you know how bad the food was. If airplane food tasted good, I was going butter, because I asked for butter there, and they gave me some yellow oil. It was like popcorn butter. I don't know, it wasn't real butter. But no butter today. So.
Now, you also, then you went back to comedy. You know, you've done a lot of comedy. You have a good sports. You went back to a TV series. Was that also, was it difficult to go back to start doing a TV series, or was it something that you had thought, well, how'd that come about at that time?
They told me that, you know, you go 9 in the morning, you have a little read through for 3 or 4 days, and then on the day you shoot, so the hours are not, you know, 16-hour days, and it wasn't like that. It was 16-hour days, and the script, you never got the real script until maybe 2 minutes. They were always changing. It was difficult, but for Ryan and I to do it together, and we could take our son to the set thinking I'd have all this time, because, you know, that's what they do on Cheers or those shows. No, not this show. You know, like many wardrobe changes, many hairdos, you know, in a hurry and fast to do it. And it was just like, oh, God. So, but I always like to do whatever I've just done. It's great, I think, to do something different. I always want to be challenged. I don't want to do the same thing. That's why it's, I think you have to be very strong, and it's hard to turn down roles as an actor. You never know when the next one is going to come. And it's not a bad one, but it's just doesn't, you could do it, but you know it's not going to be a challenge. You're not going to surprise anyone. You're not going to, you know, do anything special. So it's hard to turn down work, but I have to say that I've consciously done that, because it's so, you have to be careful to not let them put you in a box, which is what they want to do. You know, you're good on that, and that's what they want to see you doing, and that's what they offer. I mean, first it was after Charlie's Angels, only beautiful, sexy, you know, vacuous kind of roles, and then after The Burning Bed, it was only women are down. You know, it was like, oh my gosh. So it's interesting how the industry does that. You know, they see a property, they see that it works, so it's sort of like doing, I guess, sequels, you know.
Was there ever a time when there was a lull when you thought, okay, you know what, that's it, I guess it's over, or did you ever think that way, or just?
No, I'm still going to finish my senior year. You know, there are lulls, but I don't see them as a negative. It's for me, because I always feel that I've lost that wonderful ability to observe, to go, that's it, I'm going to use that someday, that what that woman is doing, you know, something, because everybody's looking at me, so I, you know, have the hair, so I can't really look at them. So you need that downtime to get away, to live, to recharge, because you get very depleted after working. It can become very, you know, by rote, and I think that's a trap you don't want to get into. And also, you don't want to work just for the sake of working, at least for me, because I love my art, and I'm very happy doing home things and working out and trying to do all the things that you can't do, you know, have a life when you're working.
Are you able to have a life, though? I mean, that sounds silly, but you're in so much in the pub. It seems like every magazine, they you know, they take pictures. Jay mentioned they'll take pictures of you. You know, the bad ones, the good ones. Are you able to really have a kind of what we would call a normal life?
No, nothing normal ever again. I don't think. I mean, I can have a life, but it's more solitary than I would prefer. It's I don't get to ever feel that I can go out and have fun and just do things, and I know it's going to be written about. I know it's going to be commented on. I know it's going to be, you know, translated in the press the next day as something opposite of what really even happened. So I have to be careful that I don't talk myself into, you've been burned so many times, you know what's going to happen, so you almost are like, no, I'm not going to do it. And then I find that every once in a while I'll do it, and it'll be fun, and it'll be great, and I'll meet somebody and they'll say, oh, I have a role, which happened to me a lot. Tommy Thompson, who wrote Blood and Money, Murder in Texas, or Frank Jarrow offering me Extremities. So you have to get out, but it becomes harder. It's the thing that if your celebrity becomes bigger than life, then everything is, your whole life is driving in the car, people talking. I can have on a baseball cap, hair wet or in pigtails, and I said to my son, because somebody was saying, that's Farrah Fawcett, and I said, I can't believe that they're saying that's Farrah Fawcett, and he said, Mom, you are Farrah Fawcett. Yeah, well, I know. But I also have to tell you a funny story, because it affects everything. It affects my, I mean, am I able to have, let's say if there is a normal mother-son relationship.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
I was saying to my son, who has the quality that I had, which is shy and a little afraid to put himself out there, but I was saying, I thought this was so good to say, look, Redmond, when I came out to Los Angeles, I didn't know what was going to happen. But so what? I mean, I didn't have really anything to lose. It didn't work out. I went back to school. I was happy in college. And so it was also an experience. Every time you do something and you try, whether the film is a success or not, it's a growing experience. You learn, and you have to look at it that way. And he said, well, yeah, Mom, that's easy for you to say, because you know, you came to LA and then 2 weeks later they realized, you know, what you were. And I said, not who I was. And I thought, what I was? Because he's heard the story some, you know, how. And so I said, what I was? And I said, what do you mean, what I was? He said, an icon. You know, they realized you were an icon. I went, oh, he doesn't understand the word like I don't understand it. But I said, but you know, they don't stand out on Hollywood and Vine and like say, okay, you know, we're going to pass out the icon, you know, diplomas to every third person. I mean, it's so he, in thinking who I am and how I got to where I am, is as confused as everybody else. Okay, it's like I always say to people, you know, everything about me except the truth. You know, so.
Well,
Anyway.
does he have? He's an actor, your son?
No.
Would you encourage him to, seeing where both of his parents come from, would you encourage him to be an actor?
I encourage him to do whatever he wants to do. If he can find something that he loves to do and do it well and it makes him happy, whatever it is, you know, don't feel that you have to be an actor, that you have to be a success at this level. I think that's, you know, he already, I think, has that pressure. So, no, I don't know that you can convince someone. It'd be hard to convince someone to be an actor because it's hard. It's really hard, you know. I mean, once you get on the set, it's okay, but that leading up to it and, tomorrow I gotta go, they're gonna look at me, they're gonna watch me, oh gosh, you know.
So recently you've done quite a few television shows. I mean, Spin City and then The Guardian, which you got an Emmy nominee for.
Right.
What do you see do you see differences in the way that television is shot now than it was done 30 years ago? What differences? What do you see differences for an actor?
Yes. I was doing The Guardian, and it was great because I got to play a grandmother, and David Hollander I admire, as I do David Kelly. So sometimes you pick specific projects because the writing is so good. It's, you know, you can do it because they've written it so well. So I thought, you know, it's television. It's not good sports where the camera, you know, I had trouble with that. But so I was doing something and I was backing up and then going to turn and walk away, and I ran right into the guy behind me. Didn't realize there was a camera, there was like so many cameras now. We're covering this, we're covering that. That's a long shot, we got your thing. And I was like, because I'm never aware really where the camera is, but I smacked right into this guy, almost knocked him over, and I went, oh, I'm so sorry. So yeah, you could just, you know, skip a few months of not working on a show, and it changes, yeah. It changes. But, I really don't like to be aware of where the camera is right there.
But so you said that for Charlie's Angels, you know, Aaron Spelling called you and you basically had the part. Do you have to audition now? I mean, with all your body of work? Or do you find that you're still being called in to read?
Sometimes they'll say, they'll want you to read, or they'll want you to take your clothes off. They'll do things like that. Sometimes. I don't think that you ever, I don't think even if you're Robert Redford, who you are, that you get to such a comfort zone that you go, I can do any role I want. Got it made. No, that's why I think it's hard being an actor. Because you're not in control. It's the role's offered to you or not, or maybe you want it, but it's somebody else who wants somebody else. So I just think that it's, and maybe, I mean, that's the nature of the business. But yeah, so I am.
You just mentioned being in control. I went to the TV Land website to check out Chasing Farrah. And I have to admit, we don't really appreciated reality television here at Screen Actors
No,
Guild.
the whole thing I said was, I hate reality shows because they're not real. I mean, are they? Why are they called reality shows?
But I have to tell, I wanted to, and knowing I was going to speak with you tonight, I wanted to look at these episodes, and I thought, I was watching them, and I have to admit, I don't watch a lot of reality. But I thought, here is someone who has been, you probably have been hounded by the press your whole life, and you probably have been chased all over. Why on earth would you be compelled? I'm just, sorry, I don't mean to be critical here, but I'm just curious, what would compel you to all of a sudden have this camera follow you around and all these personal moments? I mean, there was a lot of personal things up on that little website.
I was going to do a publicity tour for 2 films, and so they had been after me and many networks to do a reality show, which I was like, oh, they're not real. I mean, please, I just don't get it. So I said, the only way, okay, I'm going to go on this. If you want to follow me around, they're following me around anyway. Then they want to pay me for following me around. Better. So, but we were sitting at a big table. I said, but all of you around me, my manager, my publicist, my agent, the network, the head of TV Land, all that. I said, you have to be there. You're on camera too. And it's real. There's no script, there's no nothing. If you cry, if you stumble over, whatever happens. Because that's easy for me, because that's kind of how I am even on the set. So everybody agreed, and they were so uptight, always like, turn the camera on, with the and I don't want to be on the internet. And I thought it would be interesting to show how difficult it is just to do a publicity tour. Clothes don't arrive, weather changes, there's a stabbing in Miami. While we were doing the thing for the cookout, and there's mass pandemonium, then you're in negotiation, and the head of the network doesn't like the way he looks. Thinks he's too heavy. I don't like the way, okay. So I'll just say tomorrow I don't want to do, Letterman or something. I don't like it's not that easy. Or to see before I go into do the Letterman show, what I have to go through just to get in there to do it. So I thought, let people see it. It's real. It'll be, and there were 2 reasons that I did it. Also, I wanted to have my parents. I wanted to have my parents.
I saw your parents on there.
And the other thing was I wanted to fire my representatives. And so, this is not bad, but the business.
Maybe for your representatives, this isn't so good.
Well, they had become so controlling, and the business is hard, especially for a woman, because they can control you by what they say people say, or let's say even in the negotiation, there were deal breakers, points that weren't mine later, we found out, when I was talking to the TV Land executives. Those weren't my deal breakers. There was my manager's people that he wanted. And also, I knew that if I fired him, there would be a lot of dissing, and there would be a lot of untruths. Oh, she didn't fire me, I fired her. Don't want to represent her. I don't want those commissions anymore. Okay, or whatever. And so that was why. I know it sounds awful.
No, but
sometimes you're forced, to just get down, do what you have to do.
No, but you've mentioned some interesting things tonight. You talked about how you owned a part of the poster and how you've wanted to negotiate your deals for Charlie's Angels. And so as an actor, you put your trust in your representation and your team. So how do you know, or is there a way, what do you think actors need to know then from a business sense? Do you think how important is that?
About?
To have a kind of a business sense, or to be able to pick their team, to be able to put your trust into someone?
Well, I remember saying, and it wasn't that long ago, maybe 7 years ago or something, I said to someone, but he lied. I mean, he lied. And they said, he's an agent. And I went, well, that's not nice. I mean, you know. So on Chasing Farrah, I said, so can we all agree right now to mean what we say and say what we mean? Is that too difficult? Because, and everybody, okay. That lasted like maybe 5 minutes into the show. It was like, where was the say what we mean and mean what we, because say it to me, say it to my face. I guess that I was naive, you know, about it, and I don't know. I mean, I think it's like everything. I think there are good agents and bad seed devil ones, you know? Mean-spirited, and people, I think the business now is, well, maybe it's always been that way, you know, you package something or you trade one thing for another, and you know, as an actor, you have so little control, you don't know that they're doing that, or that my publicist is saying, I'll do something if they'll take, you know, a couple of the other clients, so then I'm forced into doing something else, which causes, you know, a big problem with TV Land because I'd committed to do something else, but then my publicist, you know, so it's always easy to say, put the blame on the actor, you know, on the talent. No, they didn't want to do it. They did this. They changed their mind. They're late. I've now started looking at production reports. I mean, I'm awful because I go, no, this says that I did it. No, how about that the trailers weren't here, that the head of the transportation had a night out and didn't make it here. You can't put me on this. So actually, it's easier, and the network is more accepting of, okay, it's the talent, you know, I think. And I learned that actually from Cicely Tyson, who I was on the set and working a couple of weeks before she arrived. And they're, okay, Farrah, we take a force call, and okay, we're waiting on her, she's changing her clothes, you know, forget that I had to be, you know, in 1945 and the first scene, then 1965, and then gray hair, blonde hair, but then, you know, up, down. And then she arrived. I was so happy because she's tough. She is very tough. And so they got off my case. Yes, they did. So it's nice to always have, you know, and you realize that, I mean, she didn't like the way they knocked on her door. Okay, okay. Here's how they go. Okay, and that's I thought, okay, it's kind of cute. It's annoying, just is enough because I know I'm under pressure. But I never said anything to the guy. And she opened up the door and she said, "Don't you ever!" You know, you go one knock, don't come in, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, you know, I had taken the da, you know, for so long. So, I mean, sometimes you see bad behavior, you know, by actors, but, and way, you know, too far. Like being, like, I'm so important, and I won't come to the set until everybody's on it, you know, all that kind of stuff. But sometimes you learn a few things from actors who've been around.
But so you think, but it's all right for actors to speak up. I mean, is that something that you have gotten accustomed to?
Well, I learned from Miss Tyson. Whoa, did she speak up? Wow, I was so happy she liked me. I was so happy because we really did. We really had a good relationship, and she's a wonderful actress. But I saw her. There's a lot of things that I don't do, and I really don't think it's good, even for a director, to do it on the set. And a lot of directors I've seen do it so loud, criticize the actor so loudly, you know, that everybody hears. And I'm thinking, well, it's just now made it impossible to get a good performance out of it because they're not, their face is red, they're embarrassed, they're, you know, but, and so if I have ever a problem or something, yeah, I will speak up, but not loud, not so everybody can hear. I always take people aside, which I think directors should do. You know, if they have a problem or they're, you know, what's I had a director say to me, "Farrah, are you concentrating?"
Oh, no.
Because I like to, especially it was a scene where I had to be up and happy and all that, so I was talking, to someone else. They weren't ready to roll, sitting on my mark and everything. And I went, sorry, what? Concentrate, huh? I was just, this whole thing, I was just like, you want to walk over here and talk to me? But anyway, it was just totally uncalled for. But stuff like that. No, what? You mean what? And sometimes you'll read about an actor who's doing a very intense, heavy scene, and you'll read that the other actor goes, God, they were just 1 minute and they were like that, and then, they said action, and they're so into the scene. And so some directors appreciate that, but this one obviously didn't. And really, he was like all the way across the room. I was like, so I just, but I was kind of teasing and irritating him.
What kind? You've done so many different, really, scope of projects. What kind of project are you looking for now to do? What kind of?
Something different. Covered like a whole lot, so I don't know what's left. But usually it just happens. It comes to me, It's not. I've never been very successful in, and I think maybe I've tried a couple of times that I've found a book or found a character, something that I liked that I tried, and just don't have the knack for doing it. So.
Now, what's interesting when I visited with Jay, I saw you were a very accomplished artist. I saw that you did sculpting and you had painter, and and I read that you had an art exhibit. Is that something that you've always, right across the street here?
Yes,
right?
yes.
Is that something that you've always done? 'Cause I wasn't aware of it until Jay introduced me to your artwork. It was beautiful. Is that something that you've always been doing, or?
Well, I majored in art. Remember the art department? I
Yes,
stopped there. I studied art, yes, but can't say that I ever really thought that I would have an exhibition, at LACMA or the Warhol Museum. So, I don't know. Maybe everybody's that way. Maybe you just don't have that confidence. But I don't know. I didn't have a lot of professors who gave me that confidence, except my sculpting professor, Umlauf. There's sometimes a director, a certain person can just say and have the belief in you that makes you go farther than you ever thought possible. And been a couple of people like that in my life.
Great.
Jay. He said something to me. I
think we have time for just a couple. We're going to take some questions from people here who wanted to know. I'm glad that somebody brought this up because I did want to mention this one.
I'm sorry.
Bless you. The pot. You all right?
Okay, go ahead now.
That's fine. You okay?
Because I told you.
Okay. If it comes, it's all right. We're among friends here.
Oh yeah.
The Apostle. Great film, great cast. You worked with June Carter Cash in that.
I did.
So let's talk about, because with Walk the Line, her life has been in there. So talk about your experience in working with her. She also is a legend in her field, certainly. And how did you feel working with her, and what did you think when you saw Walk the Line? Or maybe you haven't seen it. I don't know if you've seen it.
No, I did.
Oh, okay.
I actually voted for her because I thought that she really did capture the essence of June. She was so great, and Johnny was on the set also. So he was in. She had this big trailer, and a couple of times she made, believe this, she made pasta, this great pasta, and had several of us in, just sat with she and Johnny while they were eating it, and she was just like the film portrayed her. I mean, she was a combination of very strong and yet so sweet. And when she was on this, we were doing a scene, and she just broke out into song. And I didn't know that she did a lot of gospel, but I was just like, wow. I mean, I knew the country western and, Ring of Fire and all that, but I was like, wow, how did she learn? I didn't know that. But she was so sweet, so kind, so complimentary, so easy to work with, very spontaneous, and she was, I'm really, really blessed to have worked with her.
Great. Bob's telling me we have time for one more question, so I just want to quickly say, what advice would you've managed to really maintain a career, phenomenal career. What kind of advice would you give to your fellow performers here as they pursue their dreams in doing careers?
Well, I think just don't see the downside. I mean, see the upside. The downside is, unless you're where I am now, and there is a downside, it's just, go for it. I mean, whether it's for the role, don't think that I'm not good enough because, well, that's what I thought, but somebody may see something, in you. And also, when you're on the set, just there's been so many times that something has happened that I didn't think about doing, that I knocked the glass over, or I started laughing, or something affected me or scared me, or I heard a noise, and I went with it. And I would say almost 99 times out of 100, that scene is usually the one that's in it. So go with whatever is happening or you're feeling, even if it seem so far away from really what you're supposed to be doing. And most of the time, and I have to say, it really is, in my opinion, the great directors, and it's not because they appreciated it. It's like Robert Duvall, Robert Altman, they really pretty much hire you because they know you're going to bring in a certain performance, and they love to be surprised. They love to be, so now in the beginning of my career, certain directors would go, did I say to do that? Didn't I say to walk and then turn and then smile and thing? And I was like, I don't know. It was like, whoops. So it's almost like art school. I think a lot of the reason that I didn't have as much confidence is that I really had professors who who criticized and gave me bad grades, didn't encourage me. And I said to my dad, right before the exhibition, which I always had confidence in my art, not my acting, but then it changed, and now all of a sudden I was having this exhibition, and I was talking to him, and I said, no, I'm afraid I'm going to be criticized, and he said, of course you're going to be criticized. When have you not been criticized? I mean, yeah, you're going to be criticized. And I went, yeah, right, so, of course. So, sometimes your inner thoughts put so much pressure on you that it's almost like you defeat yourself before you even give yourself a chance to try. So I guess that's what I'd say.
That's great advice.
And don't blame it on me if it doesn't work.
That's great advice. Thank you so much for